Well, guys, I hope that you are ready because what happens today is Mercury goes retrograde on the 22nd of March 2018, which is today, and will retrograde until the 15th of April 2018. Now, if you've been following along with my Instagram post, which you definitely should, links will be in the bio, and on this YouTube channel, which you should definitely subscribe to if you enjoy my content and hit that bell. If you've been following along, you know that recently I've mentioned that this retrograde is going to be particularly tricky, and in this video I'm going to explain why. Now, if you remember, at the end of 2017 we had another Mercury retrograde cycle, and I told you, well, this is not that tricky, this is not that worrying, okay? It's going to be a retrograde, we will see some of those effects, but they're not going to be as harsh. Why do I say that this Mercury retrograde in the sign of Aries is going to be trickier? So this has to do with the position of Mercury retrograde relative to its debilitation and exaltation points. An exaltation point is where Mercury feels at its best, most favored, and that's at 15 degrees of Virgo. Now, directly opposite from a planet's exaltation is its debilitation point. So for Mercury, that's directly opposite from Virgo, 15 degrees of Pisces. Now, a very simple trick in determining how tricky an upcoming Mercury retrograde is likely to be, and this is just one technique, right? But it's very useful because it's simple and it's very insightful, but it's not the only one, okay? So, when Mercury retrogrades towards its exaltation, towards Virgo, the direction in which it's retrograding is towards Virgo, and it is also close to Virgo in the chart, in the zodiac. For example, if it's retrograding in Libra or Scorpio, then you would not consider that Mercury retrograde to be particularly difficult or challenging, all other things considered, of course. If it's retrograding and going more towards Pisces and is also closer to Pisces, then you would consider that a more challenging retrograde. And Aries, the sign where Mercury is retrograding right now, is the next one after Pisces, and the direction of retrogression is towards Pisces. So usually you would consider Mercury going retrograde in Aries as a bit trickier than most other signs, right? Now, there are, again, other aspects to this, which not all of them I can go into. However, we also need to take into account the fiery energy of Aries and what Aries' Lord, Mars, is doing, and various other things. So, first of all, briefly, for those of you who may not know exactly what Mercury retrograde does, it's that planetary retrograde that scares all people in the world. Even those that are not particularly interested in astrology get frightened by Mercury retrograde. What's going to happen? And you see all the memes on the internet and all that kind of stuff. Why do we worry about Mercury retrograde? What does it do? Well, at more face value effects, it can cause disturbances in the things that it governs, which are communications, technology, connections, contracts, agreements, that kind of stuff. The technical, intellectual, rational stuff, okay? So we can have our computer malfunction, or our mobile device, or our internet connection, right? Bank accounts. I just had my card eaten by an ATM machine yesterday, and I know many of you guys are already feeling the effects of this retrograde as Mercury slows down. Over the past few days, it has been slowing down, preparing to station and go retrograde. And I know that you guys have been feeling, some of you guys have been feeling these effects. Just now, this is the this is the third time I'm recording this video, because the first time I had no sound. The second time, believe it or not, I had no video at all. So this is the third time. Hopefully all goes well. But yeah, that's so much for Mercury retrograde. And I know that you guys have already been feeling some of these effects. Now, what do we do about them? Can we stop them? It depends. On a certain level we can, and some things are just meant to happen, because what Mercury retrograde actually tries to do is get us to realize that some things in our life, in the way we organize ourselves, in the way we manage certain situations in our life, need our attention because they need to change. We need to perfect them. So, can we stop these effects downright from happening? No. Unless you're ultra conscious and things like this just can't get through into your reality. But of course, then you have other people, and they will make their way to you by means of other people, even if you are highly conscious of everything in existence, which most of us are not, right? We're only human, and things will go wrong during Mercury retrograde of one nature or another. But the point is that Mercury is actually trying to tell you that you need to pay attention to these things. You need to look at the thing that went wrong, be it your computer, your mobile device, your bank account, you got a fine from somewhere, you lost something, you mismanaged something, you can't come to an agreement with a person in a discussion or something. You need to look at that situation, because Mercury is telling you that there is something in your approach or in the basic way that thing is organized that needs change, needs your attention in order to change, to be perfected, okay? So for example, if something, like in my case, went wrong with my credit card, well, it's not necessarily that you need to change your bank. Well, it may be so, but it could be just that your attitude towards money or towards the bank, or how you manage your assets and your liabilities needs to change. You need to look at that. Something could be better. And with Mercury retrograding through Aries, in another sign, in a more gentle sign, Mercury could be like, see, well, this doesn't work that well because I can do this to it, okay? You need to change it. But in Aries, it's aggressive, right? Aries is the fiery sign, the most fiery and active sign. And here Mercury is shouting at us. He's slapping us over the hand, so we drop the thing and it breaks, okay? Mercury is aggressive now. You need to change this. And one of the first things you need to keep in mind when something does go wrong is that Mercury wants you first and foremost to laugh it off. First and foremost, Mercury wants you to laugh it off. Don't take it so seriously. It cannot be so serious. So many people freak out when Mercury goes retrograde. The truth is that Mercury cannot really cause that much of a big deal usually. Now, there are instances where, effects could be considered catastrophic, but 99.999% of the events that happen as a result of Mercury retrograde, the blunders, the mishaps, are not that much of a big deal, right? Especially with Mercury in Aries, we may tend to get angry at them, get fired up about things that are going wrong. Don't do that. Mercury wants you to laugh them off. That's the first thing that Mercury wants you to do, is to have a childish approach, because Mercury is the child of the zodiac, of the planets, and it wants you to not take things so seriously. Because when you laugh things off, what you do is you open the potential for actually dealing with that thing better, because now it's not that much of a burden. It's all about the mind, it's all about the intellect, it's all about your cognition, which is governed by Mercury. So by taking things lightly, you already place them in a space in your mind where they are easy to manage. Now, once you've done this, employ your intellect. Try to understand, what could I change in this thing, in this situation, for the better? What do I need to pay more attention to? Sometimes it's just Mercury saying you're not paying attention to this thing. You need to pay attention to stuff. Okay? What am I not paying attention to? Why do I need to change this? How do I need to change it? right? What would be the results if I change it this way or that way? Think about all of these things. Play around with them. Play with ideas. Mercury wants us to play. So then you realize why you need to change something. And again, don't be upset if you drop your phone and you crack it, for example. That has happened to me before. Laugh it off. Make no big deal out of it. Then either see if you want another phone, see if there's something about your phone and the way that you're managing your phone needs to change. Maybe your phone is taking up too much of your time and you're not being practical. Mercury is into practicality. Mercury wants us to be practical. Consider all of these things. Consider everything within rational boundaries that you can consider about a thing when Mercury attracts your attention to that by producing some kind of unwanted effect. Okay? Do not argue with people. In Aries, it's going to be very easy to get fired up in discussions and, you know, go all out, and you know how that goes. Okay? So don't engage in fiery discussions with Mercury retrograding through Aries. Mind your technology, mind everything to the best of your ability, but again, don't become tense over it. Don't become tense over what's Mercury retrograde going to do to me. What it may do to you, just as any other planets, is going to be mostly seen, or the area of life where you would rather focus right now is going to be mostly seen from Aries in your chart, where Aries is in your chart, and where Mercury is in your chart, and what Mercury rules in your chart. Again, if you need someone looking at your charts and discussing anything about your natal positions of the planets or transits or whatever else in astrology, any kind of astrological advice or information, you can book a session with me for 30 minutes or 60 minutes. We will do it by live video, and I will answer all of your questions. Now, guys, for the third time, and again, links will be in the description. For the third time that I made this video, this is decent, let's say. Even though I'm sure that I didn't say all of the things that I could have said. Oh, by the way, go check out my Mars in Capricorn video, because Mars is going to conjunct Saturn in Capricorn at the beginning of April. First few days of April, Mars closes into a conjunction with Saturn, and that's going to be a powerful conjunction. I've spoken about it in a video which I will link down below, including all of the other things that I mentioned. Go look at that, because Mars's conjunction to Saturn under a Mercury retrograde is likely to be quite interesting for reasons which you will understand if you watch the other video as well. Okay, guys, so I was planning to keep this short. And so I'm going to just end this here. Thank you very much for watching. Again, subscribe to my channel. Go find all of the links in the description. Take care. Laugh it off. Don't take things seriously. Learn, perfect, and move along. Thanks very much for watching. I'll see you on the next video.